With all the craziness in this world, we are here to have open and honest conversations to help navigate our thoughts.
Sometimes we are right and sometimes we're wrong. But in the end, if we aren't learning, we aren't living.
This is Philip.
And this is Wes.
And we are
Two Bottles Deep.
Hello, Wes.
Hey, Phil.
How are you, babe?
Good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
Bright and sunshine here. I am excited for today.
Yes, me too. So I saw a documentary a few years ago that left me very intrigued and lots of questions. And after Wes and I started this podcast, we made it a mission to reach out to people not only in our community, but in communities that are different than ours. And today's episode is about one of these communities.
And you may be asking yourselves at home, at work, in your car, wherever you're at right now, on the treadmill, one of our friends listen on the treadmill, what community are we talking about? And that is the furry community. We generally run into furries at Pride events. We actually were chatting with that guy at the Nashville Pride Parade. Yeah. Really cool guy. And we wanted to know more about this community because I rarely see them out and about around town.
Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome to the Two Bottles Deep studio. It's Fiction.
Hey, how's everybody doing today?
Hello, Fiction. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
We are good. Thank you so much, first of all, for spending time with us. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
So before we start, just to give some context, I recently posted in the Furries Facebook group that I was very interested in talking to someone from this community, and Fiction reached out immediately. So thank you, Fiction, for being willing to talk about this. But before we go into this, I wanted to kind of define what a furry is. So let me read the definition. It's very, very formal. But then I'd like to get your take on that. All right. Okay. So the furry community is a subculture interested in anthropomorphic, and I had to look that up. Anthropomorphic is having human characteristics. So it's a subculture interested in anthropomorphic animal characters with human traits. This interest can manifest in various ways, such as creating and wearing furry costumes known as fursuits, creating art, writing stories, or participating in online communities and conventions. The furry community is diverse and inclusive, encompassing people of all ages, genders, and backgrounds. And while some furries enjoy the artistic and creative aspects of the fandom, others are interested in the social aspects, such as making friends with similar interests or participating in role-playing activities. That was a mouthful.
I'm glad one word.
I should get credit for just reading that without messing up. So, Fiction, is that a good definition?
I would say it definitely hits right on the nail.
Okay.
You know? And I would say, yeah, we come from many diversities and creativity. Definitely creativity is one of our biggest things in our community. And we have a lot of artists, a lot of writers. We have a lot of IT guys, believe it or not.
So what if someone asks you what's a furry and you don't want to give them the 30-minute thing that I just read? What's your real quick answer to that question?
Oh, we just love animals, and we just like the characteristics that we portray. We like acting out the anthropomorphic animals, and that's usually what it is. We just enjoy it as a hobby to entertain people, and that would be my quickest answer. But realistically, we don't really get asked that question that oftenly.
Okay,
it's not usually a subject that is brought up all the time. And if people were to ask us, we're like, yeah, it's like, realistically, I would say the answer to when people ask us, so you're a furry? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's pretty cool. And we just leave it at that. We don't really get into many details about that kind of question. Usually if people are curious enough, they go search themselves, like how you guys did.
Right. I think people's minds automatically go to sex and gay. Do you find that as a stereotype?
Well, I mean, that could be said about even the LGBT when, that's not true for everyone, and I can make an argument that each community, whether it is the furry community, LGBT, or the cosplay communities, everybody does that. And, it's not just us, so to speak. And I believe there's gay and sex in every community. It's not
Yeah.
just us. It's just unfortunately that we get that stereotype for some odd reason.
And I think this is an important part of us talking to people who may be in our community or outside of our community, just to connect and kind of debunk those stereotypes. Because we always like to, if we go out, we're like, oh, we're getting ready to do an episode with this person, or we've done episodes with trans people and parents of trans kids, and people always have those questions. And that's one person asked me, they're like, oh, isn't that like the hotel convention that's for sex? And I'm like, I don't think so. But that's kind of, and being gay man, we get a lot of questions all the time. And to your point, it happens in every community. So we're so excited to dive in and talk to you to see what that community is about.
It's from anything I've met many of my friends in this community are not even really sex driven at all. It's they're more driven about their passions and their hobbies. For example, I was hanging out with one of my friends. We called Killjoy, who is a fantastic artist, by the way, made some really great work. And he gave me a birthday gift. He gave me a free sketch of my character, which was pretty nice of him to do. So it was nice. And he makes a living doing art all the time, full time doing that. So that was pretty cool.
So Fiction, when did you first know that you were interested? How do you get into this situation? Like, you mentioned you loved animals. Like, help me get from loving animals to when you kind of realized that there was a furry community, that you felt a part of it.
I would say it started off really young. I kind of noticed when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of Disney movies involving animals like Bambi, or Fox and the Hound, and I would constantly watch it. I had no idea what a furry was at that time, of course. I was just a little kid, but I kind of noticed that pattern of like I am aware of me just liking the animals, and I think it's cool. I always like going to the zoo, checking out the animals and stuff like that. I really remember when I was a kid, I had like maybe 8 dogs, and then a funny story. I used to sneak out of the house at night, and I would think I was a part of their group, and we would just go out in the woods and explore, and for 2 hours, and I come back home and went back to bed. So yeah, it's a good connection with animals, because what I love about dogs is they're always happy to see you, and that's what I like. And human beings, it depends. But
it's iffy with humans.
Yeah, it depends on the situation. And my dad, you want to hear a it's such a bad way of saying it, but he would always say, who would be happier to see you if you locked them in the trunk, your wife or your dog? So I was like,
yeah. I've never locked a wife in a trunk yet, but I'm going to go with dog on that one.
That's that was pretty funny, though. I was like, yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, good point.
Do you have to come out as a furry?
No, actually, I never really had that personal experience. I can't speak on everybody else, but I can speak on my behalf. My whole family knows I am, and they never had any problems with it at all.
So do you just come out in the fursuit one day and say, hey guys, this is something I'm interested in? Or did you ease them into the fursuit? Was it like first you told them that you liked furries? Like, how do you tell your family of this, this part of your life?
At first I was kind of scared to tell them, but what I can answer about the fursuit, I didn't have a fursuit at the time when I told them I was a furry. So I just told them I found the art interesting, the community interesting. I got along with making friends with them, and it just felt like a belonging, so to speak. When you are just a young teenager, especially a young teenager, and trying to find yourself within a group. And I stumbled upon them by accident, and ever since then, I've been a part of it since, let's say, maybe 2012.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but when my mom figured it out eventually, because I would tell her, and she didn't really care. She thought it was pretty unique. She finds the community very interesting, very passionate, very creative people, and she thought that was pretty much what I would fit in, because I'm a creative person as well.
I've been, watching a lot of interviews about furries, and there's some really good ones and there's some really bad ones. We were talking earlier. We want to bring light and positivity because I think there are a lot of
Yeah.
stereotypes to it. When you talk about a community, the makeup of a community, I think people are surprised we have so many straight friends and so many
Mhm.
black friends and white friends, and it's just that's the community makeup. What's your community makeup? Is it mostly gay? Because that's the question I got. Is that do you and it's I like how you said there's a lot of IT guys and there's a lot of artists, and that's a talent I wish I had. I wish I was creative. What
Well,
does make up the
I
community?
would say the reason why I said there's a lot of artists and IT guys, it's only because that's what I've seen from perspectives. Now, everybody else in the community can have different ones. And I believe that we all come from different walks of life, whether it's from a low income job to a government job. So, yeah,
Yeah.
like my roommate, for example, when I was living in Maryland at the time, he has a PhD and works for the government, which was pretty cool. So we're pretty much everywhere. It doesn't matter the low income to high income. It's all diverse, and we
Yeah.
have come in different varieties and
Mhm.
different backgrounds and all these things. Doesn't matter the race, your ethnicity, the culture. It's everywhere around the world.
I was looking up some of the stats. I mean, and some of the it's interesting because I found a huge variety in the
Mhm.
stats for this. So it's probably difficult to know for sure, but several of them talk about it is a larger majority of male versus
Mhm.
female when you think about the community.
Mhm.
Around 22% identify as homosexual, 32% heterosexual, and
Mhm.
35% bisexual. So it seems
Okay.
like, and that may be different for you in with your
Mhm.
friend group fiction, of course, but I was I was interested to find out that a larger majority of them were bisexual men. Um,
Mhm.
so that kind
Yeah,
of gives a
that's interesting.
yeah. So in terms of like the history, and I don't want to, it's not like a history podcast, but like
Mhm.
my version of if someone asked me how did furries get started, um, my version now after watching some of these documentaries too is a group of very creative artists had a very specific vision for the way they wanted the art to go. And
Mhm.
then it started out more at a sci-fi conventions and realized that there was a huge community that was going there that weren't really into the sci-fi part as much as more of the anthropomorphic art. Is that am I right with that? And then it kind of broke
Sci-fi
off from
part.
there?
When I think of the sci-fi part, I have no idea actually. I didn't really dive into that detail, and I never heard of that, but I heard a couple of things, like I guess the quote unquote founding fathers, um, on a talk that I had with one of the older furries in their community, where they started out in the '90s and they started up a small convention, but that's all I know. I don't remember it by name.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what was your how many conventions have you been to?
I've been to actually just two.
Okay.
I just recently started getting into doing it with a busy schedule like mine, where I just try to do everything college, work and other things,
Yeah.
my own podcast. It's hard to really do that. But when I do plan on going, usually maybe once a year, I would like to get to two a year. But, they can be very expensive, especially the hotels.
And how was it? How was the first convention for you?
My first time going there, it was definitely it was a lot to take in because there was a lot of people and it was packed and, and then you're also being surrounded by a community that that looks up to you as well. I have my own fan base and they recognize me like, oh my God, it's fiction. And they try to take a picture and they just try to hug me. And it's a little overwhelming at first because I never had that experience before. But so I appreciate, my fans just doing these small things because it really does mean a lot to me that I can put a smile on their faces. And that means the world to
Yeah.
me because I like being that person, making sure that my fan base is happy in what I deliver.
Mhm.
Can you plug your how people can find you right now on either TikTok or your podcast as well?
Sure. I can definitely do that. Maybe if I just look at my phone real quick because I can't remember my own username on Twitter.
Hey,
Yeah.
um, so if I was to say, it wouldn't be like for TikTok, it would be Fiction Boy, which is BOI, not BOY. It's all one word, and it's capital F, and boy it's capital B.
Okay.
And then on Twitter, it would be like at Fiction the Husky, and it's all one word as well. It's just so I just capitalized the F, the T, and the H. So
Okay.
yeah, and I think you also follow me on Instagram, I believe.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are my main personal media. Now, Top Dogs podcast, you can also find Top Dogs podcast on Twitter, which is just at Top Dogs podcast, capital T,
Right.
capital D, capital P. And you can also find us on YouTube, just Top Dog Podcast. Same thing as the Twitter and TikTok as well.
We get a lot of listener emails, so I'm glad that you threw that out there so they can reach out to you directly or reach out to us, because hopefully we answer a lot of the questions. But that's part of our podcast, is bringing people together, answer questions, just being curious, right? So when you go to a furry convention, are you in do you have one suit?
Yes, I do.
So that's your brand. That is, you're a husky.
Yeah.
Did you have, I'm assuming you had huskies growing up.
Actually, only one.
Oh, really? Okay.
I really liked huskies. I'm not, God, I feel old saying this, but have you guys ever watched, maybe as a kid, when Balto?
Oh, I don't know that one.
It was a Universal Studios movie back in 1995, and I loved that character. So that's kind of, even though he was like half wolf, half husky, I just like the huskies part, and he's kind of like what started building what my character is today. So that was pretty cool. Is there any let me ask you this, would you guys like to see the head real quick?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding me?
Sure, give me a second. I have it right over here. I had to like find an interesting route to pull this thing, but here he is. Yeah. So
do you design this, or was it pre-made and you saw it and you're like, that's me? Or did you say, these are the colors I want, this, blue?
Oh yeah, I made the choices of designing it, but I didn't craft it.
Okay.
I would have to give, props to my creator. Her name is Anush. She is the owner of For the Wind Studios, and she is from Quebec, Canada.
Okay.
She made this for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So do you get online, you like custom build it on a website, and she ships it to you?
I give her a reference sheet.
Okay.
Of what your character is supposed to look like. That's what most furries with characters do, especially if they have a main one. They have a reference sheet, poses, back, front, side, how he looks, color schemes, and all that stuff. Interesting enough, the reason why I call him Fiction is because he wasn't supposed to exist at all. When I was creating him, I was in high school in sophomore year, and I was in a Photoshop class. And let's just say when I was creating him, I think we had a power out, and I lost all my work on what I was creating. And I was like, oh crap. And then we got the power back, but I had no idea that we had a backup save. And I found him again, and I was like, you know what? He wasn't supposed to exist at all, so I just call him Fiction.
Love it.
Yeah.
So you said you kind of started this character in high school, and at this point, are you part of the furry community in this part in your life?
Yes.
Okay. And so when did you, in your mind, join the furry community?
I think there is really no special introduction. I just think if you just want to be a part of it, then you're a part of it. There's no, like I said, no special introduction, just getting in. You don't need to do some application to get in. It's just being a part of it. That's it.
Yeah.
You join the group, go to the meetups, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And is a lot of this at this stage, you're in high school, this is a big online community for you? Or were you surrounded with people physically who were in that same community? Did you have friends that were furries in high school?
For me, at least, it was always online.
Okay.
Because I didn't understand if I could understand how social media worked at that time when I was a kid. I just found websites and I just went there to hang out with people. That's just from my perspective. Now, other people's perspectives might be different.
Sure.
Like, yeah. So, but all in all, especially in the United States, furries talk to each other online all the time, but the most popular choice that we like to hang out in, at least from my opinion, is either VR chat. Have you guys ever heard of VR chat?
No.
It's a virtual reality video game that you can bring your own character to life and you can communicate normally, like how you would even outside of, in real life and hanging out with people. It's just more virtual, and you can move you like a normal human being would, and just casually vibe. Every weekend we just hang out on Fridays, Saturdays, drinking and all that, and it's a good time. It's VR chat is very. It's not just for furries, but it's for everyone. It's just, they have like clubs that you can dance in if you can't afford a club and
Oh,
all
wow.
those things.
It's like we
Yeah.
need to get a virtual
So-
reality. Is that we're talking like the thing here where
glasses, right?
you're
Yeah. I have the headset over
We gotta get one of
here.
those.
So wait, so
Yeah.
how do you see each other? I guess I don't know how that
yeah,
works.
so-
Or is that like a cartoon thing?
When you say how we see each other, you mean like, hey, let's go to your house and hang out kind of thing, or head to the bar? Is that what you mean?
No, he means
Like
so
through the glasses.
like virtual reality.
Oh,
you
there
meet-
is there's definitely some glass thing that you see, and they have like a display inside the headset itself that you can look through.
And so y'all would meet, which like VR room you're meeting in. And
Mhm.
so that's how so everybody would meet. It's like getting online and chatting, but now it's
And there's
actual.
there's cameras, and then you have
Yeah, well, you're
Yeah.
seeing what everyone else is seeing in the room that you share.
Mhm.
But he could be at home by himself,
right.
but he's
You
hanging
feel
out
like
with
you're-
all his friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
VR works.
that's how that works.
Okay.
Very cool.
So,
Oh,
sorry.
you go,
I
you
still
go.
want to know how much. Can I ask you how much what's a typical fursuit cost?
Well, when I bought mine, it was like there's different types. There's partials, there's digigrade, there's poly, and there's forgot the other term, but it was it just depends. Like mine is when I got it was like $1,500,
Okay.
but I believe I could be wrong. Nah, I had to ask the fursuit creators, but I think they raised their prices to $3,000 to $5,000 now.
Yeah, I was seeing some of those.
I've heard they go up to 7.
Wow.
And it may be like the height of the person or the
Mhm.
I don't know what. I'm sure that all goes into it and the material and
Oh, if they want to measure, they had to use duct tape dummies. That you literally had to duct tape. If you want a full suit, like all fur, you need a duct tape dummy.
Does that mean you cover your body in duct tape?
and then
I love that. I'm going to do that to you later. I'm going to cover you in duct tape.
Hey, if they have an alpaca furry, I am in because I love alpacas.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh
just
yeah, you
big
could be an alpaca.
or
We
back
actually
downs. I
we
love
actually do have I think we do have a popular fur that is an alpaca. I don't remember their name exactly, but they're definitely popular.
So you want to hear back to the stats here?
I do.
The stats on the personas, excuse me, the fursona species prevalence, and the largest one, 21% wolf, 16% dragon, 16% fox, and 14% hybrid. So,
Hybrids.
yeah. The wolves
Yeah.
are the
hybrids like a mixture.
Yeah, I guess you could be.
Okay.
Yeah. And you mentioned fiction. There were several different types of suits. So you've got the full suit you're talking about. A partial, what is that? Maybe just
a partial is like something I wear because I'm not a big fan of wearing full suits. Not to say not to the other people who wear full suits. They're more entitled to do whatever they want with it. This is just a preference for me only because I get hot easily.
That was
so
the question. How do you survive in a full suit?
Yeah, and so when I put them on, for example, it still gets hot. Your head's covered. But the other reason why I like wearing partials is not because of just being too hot. The main reason is because I like to wear clothes, and I feel like if you limit yourself to just a full fursuit, you don't really have a lot of options to wear clothes. And I think clothes is definitely a big factor in your personality. So that's why I wear clothes with mine.
Okay.
So you're at a convention or you're doing these online things, right? Are you always in the suit for that whole weekend, or do you take a break?
Oh, actually, I don't wear it on a daily basis. I only wear it when I need to.
Okay, so if you're at Starbucks and people come up and they're a fan of yours, like, oh my God, you're fiction, they would know who you are.
I've had that a couple of times, believe it or not. At a Kroger, I've had that at Walmart. I've had that at a Starbucks, actually.
He's a famous
Um,
furry.
Yeah, there we
Got
go.
a
That's
famous
awesome.
furry
I
here.
don't like to think I am. We're so small community. It's just, run,
Yeah.
run and go. I like to, be humbled by the fact that yes, people watch me and
Sure.
big fans of me. So I was like, so I think it's a great humble. As long as I'm doing what I can to make people smile, that's what matters to me.
Now you mentioned, can we talk about your sexuality? How do you
Oh
identify?
yes, I'm bisexual.
Okay, so you're bisexual, and are you in
Yeah.
a relationship?
Yes.
And is the person you're in the relationship with in the furry community?
Yes.
Okay, and and it's one of the stats I saw is that a significant number of people prefer relationships. Of course, that makes sense because
Mm.
I'm sure it could be an issue of like, why are you always wanting to go to a furry convention? It's like,
gotta
well,
have
that's what
that
I'm
in
passionate
common.
about. Yeah.
Mhm.
So is that what you notice too? People that are in relationships in this community, are they most often with other furries?
Yeah, it's not surprising, but I know many furries that are in relationships that with are non-furries. But I've noticed it. I can't really speak on the male perspectives, but I know a lot of women in our community that are dating outside of the furry community. So that's just from my perspective. I could be wrong, but I haven't met anyone that is a male that's dating outside the furry community.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of like, if like we were dating and I was into golf and you weren't, and you're like, oh, you know what? Go on your golf trip.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
going. So kind of the same thing, right? It's like if
It's
you're both into that, like I won't date someone that won't play pickleball. It's just,
Oh, come
it's
on.
off I'm just kidding. It's off the table. Oh my God, we could play pickleball in my
Mhm.
alpaca furry.
Oh, you could. Yeah. Well,
Yes, I
you
could.
don't
I
do
would
well at it,
dominate the court.
but
Mm.
all right. So I'm still obsessing over these suits because I find this very interesting.
Mhm.
So you're the person you're in a relationship with.
Mhm.
What is their persona?
They are a pink husky.
A pink husky. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So
do you do dating, like for you specifically? Do
Mhm.
you you said you don't wear it all the time. Do you go on
Mhm.
dates in your
No.
fursuit?
No, at the end of the day, I'm still like a regular human being. I just do it as for fun, as a hobby.
Okay.
There are parts of the community,
Hmm.
like when our community, it's so diverse, right? And
Yeah.
us two are gay, so it's like our community is so diverse and so many different personalities. So
Mhm.
are there people that will go to Kroger in a furry suit?
I've seen some videos of it happening before.
Just
Yeah.
kind of everyday life, like Aunt Gertrude dies and then they go, or to
I
a
mean,
girl,
I've,
or
I've only seen videos of people going to PetSmart or to
oh yeah,
Walmart and just doing these things. That I don't personally know those people. I've just seen videos. Now I've seen furries who want to take photo shoots, go outside and have that good picture, out in the beautiful view. That's not a uncommon
for
thing.
sure,
I've seen
sure.
that a lot. Yeah. I kind of know it's furries are very just as photogenic as a lot of gay men that I know.
Does your personality change in there?
Good question.
Is it like a character thing and your voice changes?
I would say I'm 100% me in and out. Now I can't speak on behalf of other people. Now I've seen people who have acted different when they put the suit on. They feel different, but that's just friends. I can't, like I said, speak for everybody. But yeah, that does happen. It's kind of like the way I like to have make sense to me. You guys know Ozzy Osbourne, so he's a different person off stage than he is on stage. So it's kind of like when you're the spotlight and everybody's focused on you for the character that you represent. That's how they say it. But when they're done and they go do their normal daily things, they'll go back to who they are. I've seen that happen before,
Sure.
especially with friends.
I feel like I would have more confidence, maybe. I mean,
Oh yes,
when I
they
put
do have a lot more
like
confidence.
the hat on or the head on,
Mhm.
no one would know me. I could just like say anything. I
That
mean,
is very true.
do
You
you
you nailed
feel
that pretty well. There is
more
a lot
confident with it?
friends of mine who find more confidence when they're under the suit. That
Mhm.
is a very real thing. But with me, I've always been confident in or out. It don't really matter.
What about are there dating sites? Like how do furries, besides you mentioned kind of the VR hangouts and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
are there dating sites? Are there furry dating sites?
Uh, The only one I know, it's called, I don't even think it's considered a dating site because a lot of people use it for different things. Like we call it Bark, BARQ. Now,
Right.
but it's not really a dating site. It's kind of like a way to figure out who's local in the area, and we just hang out. Have used that app to hang out with local furries all the time, and it never really turned out that way at all. It's just hanging out, and we make it very vividly clear if we're looking or if we're not, and they respect that, and we just go that way, just hang out.
And were you specifically looking for somebody to date? Would you only date a furry, or would you feel comfortable,
Oh, I can date anyone outside of it. That's not a problem for me.
Yeah.
I just think it's just a little bit more convenient when it's in your community and you don't have to really explain everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never was uncomfortable for me. So, and but yeah, that's about it. I had a brain fart there.
What about are there things in the community, in the furry community, that you don't agree with or that frustrates you? I mean, I think every community has their own. I mean, being the gay community, I could come up with a few things that
Yeah.
that I don't love.
Good question.
Is there anything in that community that you see consistently or that you wish was different?
How would I put this? I would say, we all have our flaws in each community that we're in, right? And some of them are pretty obvious, and some of them are probably very similar to other communities. Like I've seen, I'm not sure how big drama is in the LGBT community sometimes.
I'd say pretty big.
I'd
I'd say that's kind of our
recent
main
stat is 99%.
right every day.
I would say drama does happen sometimes, and I've seen people make some very serious accusations a lot of times, and they kind of throw it like it's candy, which kind of loses the value of the accusation sometimes, and it's the same thing over and over again. That's happened a lot. We have I've met, and I won't speak any other names, but I have met a couple of furries who have very inflated egos, who were getting upset because of how I was skyrocketing and in my own family. Yeah. But the thing is, I'm like, I told him, like, dude, it's not that big of a deal. It's just, just be consistent in what you do and you'll get there. And I try to, not cause a fight. I'm just trying to give them, a heads up, like, hey, you can do this too, I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to go above you. And there is some people out there that consider that competition, and I'm not one of those people. And then there's a majority of popular furries that don't either. It's just there is some good and there's sometimes bad.
What about what have you learned about whether it's life or your personality or whatever? What have you gained from being part of the furry community? What has it helped you with?
Oh, it gave me one thing, a lot of creativity, knowing that what my dreams are in the future, what I want to be. It gave me hope that I could use our community to maybe step out of the bubble. Like I'm right now, it's kind of what we do. We don't usually, most of the time, I would say majority of furries would not like to talk about things like this because most of them probably fear judgment. But I always told furries, if you want to be successful and you want to go far and shoot for the stars, you're going to have to step out of that comfort zone sometimes. And some of them, they get that, and some of them don't. And now there is a couple of furries out there just like me that don't mind stepping outside of that comfort zone to, shoot for the stars to get where they want. So like if I wanted to say I'm writing a book, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm writing a book series and I want to sell it to not just the furries, but a regular consumer. But that's my goal. Like I know I can't just expect it to be really good or successful if I can't sell to regular consumers. Like if you want to be successful, you're gonna have to figure out, and research how to sell, to regular people. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it. Now, I think success is defined differently for everyone, but to me, it's like stepping out of that comfort zone in order to achieve that success you want.
Okay. What else, Wes? What's
I don't know. I'm just like, I feel like every time I've talked to someone about the furry community, they they have questions about it or they roll their eyes about it. And I love this conversation because I love the creativity behind it. I love the thought process behind it. I love that there's a community
yeah.
behind it. I think a lot of times too, when we talk to people or answer emails that come in, they kind of lump all of our communities together. So I love these stats that, you were saying earlier, 22 or 32% are bisexual or straight. And it's like, it normalizes it. I don't like the word normal. But in a way, it's just like people are so excited about this episode. And I think this is such great information. Even when we talk to our marketing people, I'm like, I could never have thought of that. Like, I'm just not that creative. And Philip knows I'm not a Halloween guy because I'm like, I don't know what to wear. I don't know what costume. I don't know what I could do. So I just really applaud you all for building such a great positive community. And it sounds like really inclusive.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yeah. So, but I normally it's like, yeah, there's some drama. Yeah, there's some other people that don't want to see you succeed, but I think we should all applaud each other and help each other get to that point, especially when people are finding joy out of it and come up to you and thank you for what you're doing,
Yeah, as it doesn't really matter. Like, to your point, what you say, when the bigger the success, the more people may not like you. But I feel like that's with everyone. It's not just with a particular community. You know.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well-
So keep that in mind.
Here's this is really random, but I just thought of it. So stick with me here.
Okay.
My concern, if I were in the furry community, is if I meet a furry, let's say I'm in my fursuit and I go and meet the furry and I like the personality, and then the fursuit comes off and I'm like, but I'm not attracted to you physically. I wonder if that's an issue of like, I guess it makes you pretty vain that you
Like
only like.
love is blind.
Yeah,
We've
so
seen
I
that
don't know
show.
if there's a question there, but it's like I would worry that I would like people, but then I'm like, wait a minute, that's not somebody I would normally find attractive, but I like the personality.
Does it feel like catfish to you?
Yeah, maybe that's a good.
Well, yeah, but you're connecting, and
you're,
you never knew what they looked like.
but you've given permission for it. Like I know what I'm getting into, right? I know I'm in a fursuit and they're in a fursuit, but like I wonder if that's an issue where it's like, oh, I liked you until your fursuit came
Are
off.
you saying that they like the character, not so much the person?
Yes, you put it very well.
I personally never experienced that myself. Most of the time when we engage with a lot of our friends, most of the time it's actually out of fursuit. We don't usually have deep conversations or casual talks with our friends in fursuit all the time. When we put on the fursuit, we just do it to have fun. We're just taking pictures, giving each other hugs, and having a great time. But when we're out of suit, it's the same thing. It just, we're not putting on a show.
Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from, and I've heard about that, like where people are only attracted to the character and not really so much you. And that, I think that is a real thing. Sometimes I can't speak on behalf of myself or other people because I never done that. I've always liked the person in or out of the suit before.
Yeah.
But if you were to maybe ask somebody else, maybe they give you a different answer. Because I think that is a real thing. There has been conversations that were brought up to me like that before. But yeah, I can't speak on behalf of that. It's just that isn't me. If I like you for who you are, then that's how it is.
And that's a good point, because if there are furries that are only in character, say you met someone at a convention, Philip, and for 8 hours that day or whatever, you were in character, and then y'all are hanging out in the rooms or in the lobby afterwards and nobody's in character, it's like that could be a different person. For sure.
How long did you what's the longest time you've had your fur suit or your
fursuit?
They'll call it. Do you still call it a suit if it's not a full suit?
I mean, it's still a fursuit, yeah.
Okay. What's the longest time you've worn a fursuit?
I get hot easily, so I would say maybe an hour or two.
Okay.
I don't like wearing it for too long. But I've seen some guys who would just soldier right through it. They wear it for 8 hours sometimes. I'm like, dude, how do you not have a
I would have to have a built-in air conditioner
ice
inside.
packs.
I would wonder if they do that, if they air condition the suits.
I saw some interviews where they get creative with stuff like that. Now, you go to these conventions. Would you say most people are in character and you're like kind of talking to each other in character, like these storylines? Like, and I
No.
say that because my cousin has created like these, even when we were kids, these Dungeons and Dragons board games. And I always said he should have went into that because his mind was so creative. So that's
Mhm.
what I think about your community as well, as these storylines and these characters and fiction or non, right? What's it like when you're in a room?
Well, I still, like I said before, I'm still me in or out of suit, and that's
Mhm.
never changed. So I get. So if you could repeat what you're trying to ask, so I can maybe
Like
get some
when
little
you're,
bit more clarity.
yeah. Well, I saw like there was one girl that you had alluded to it too.
Mhm.
She'd went out into the woods. She would put on her suit and crawl around, and because she thought she was or I don't mean to say that. She identifies, I guess, as a dog.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm. Oh,
and
those are Therians.
oh,
That's the
Therians.
word I wrote down earlier.
Mhm.
Therians. Hold on. Tell us what that.
So yeah, go with that.
What is that
A
fiction?
Therian is a person that I can't, I wouldn't say I would get the definition correct, but I believe they believe they're more than just human beings.
Okay.
Now, I never have associated with that group of people before. I know I believe I follow someone that believes they are. And that's just one person. But, to each of their own, right? They are entitled to whatever they want to believe. I just know for me, at least, I believe I'm 100% human being. But, I'm not going to discourage them or,
Sure.
target them for believing in that.
Sure.
That's their business. And it's really not my business either.
I love that.
Mhm.
Okay, remind me cat target later. I'm gonna get back to this. Can you remember that?
Yeah,
So
I'm
I
gonna
don't
try
forget.
to.
Okay. So what I was asking, like when you're in uh, okay, so you are pretty much you in or out
Mhm.
of your furry suit. So
Yeah.
when you're at a convention, are most people in character or
Um,
like in a ballroom when you're doing the convention?
with strangers, I don't know because I don't know who they are. But my friends, when they're around me, talking to me, no, not usually.
Just have the
Um,
suit on and you're talking normal everyday
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I'll be honest with you. Putting on that first aid hood on sometimes it muffles the sound sometimes, so we had to get very close just to hear each other.
Oh, I
Yeah.
noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so cat target.
Okay.
Okay, so it might be this theory thing, but I was in Target a couple
Mhm.
weeks ago.
Oh, this will be good. Stick with us,
Philip knows-
fiction. You
yeah,
never
I
know where
hope
this
you
is going to
have like
go.
20 minutes. So there was a young girl in there. I would say no older than 15. And she
Mhm.
had cat ears on and a
Mhm.
tail and was meowing. Was not affecting anybody else.
Mhm.
But she was with another friend. And I think that was she was more of the emo community, but she was kind of like meowing. So
Okay.
to me, I'm like, okay, that's a furry. Is it a furry or is it not?
I wouldn't know exactly because I know people who have act that way before. They're not furries at all.
So that's
Um,
this theory thing you're talking about where
mhm.
someone identifies as a cat because you see the reports of kids want litter boxes in schools and I think that's pushed. I don't think that's a real thing. I think
I
there's a
think
certain
that's kind of an over
vibe
exaggeration of
pushing it.
media.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But then this was my first interaction and it was here in Nashville in a Target and I'm like, oh,
You thought
okay.
you
And
spotted a furry.
I did. I'm like, oh my god, a furry, but I didn't
Mhm.
know, and I want to respect different communities, and I like to learn about that. So
Mhm.
that's totally different than kind of like your persona. You don't think you're a dog.
No, I never thought I was. To me, at the end of the day, it's just a costume.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that. This is going to bring a lot of light because I think people, kind of like in the gay community, they think we know everything about the LGBTQIA, right? We don't,
Yeah.
but we try to learn. So I like that you said that about that
Mhm.
community because I kind of lumped it all together, and not in a bad way, but I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay, that must be a furry. But she just had a tail; it wasn't a full suit.
Yeah.
They could have been part of the anime community. You never know.
Oh, anime. That's another. Okay.
Um,
Good to
Fiction
know.
I know you mentioned being to two of the conventions.
Mhm.
Besides the social aspect where you're getting to meet and meet new
Mhm.
people, are
Yeah.
there like when I go to a convention, there's classes that are offered, there's instructional things or
Really.
speeches you can go hear. What else is offered at a furry convention besides like the greeting, meeting new
Mhm.
people? Are there classes to go to? Are there
Oh, there is many things that you can do. Like when me and my Top Dogs podcast team, we made a plan to get a venue to, talk a live audience episode to our community, and we had a huge crowd, which I'm very happy. Thanks
So
to
cool.
yeah. If the fan base of Todd Dust podcast is watching this, thank you for watching that. That was absolutely amazing. And our friend, one of our friends that was a guest on our show one time because he's into mixology, great bartender, and he made us our drinks based on our sonas, our characters.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and
What was
it was
your drink? Do
pretty
you
cool.
remember?
Do I remember the drink?
Yeah. What was the?
It was called Beyond Fiction.
Oh, all right.
And that's what he called it. And it was, I think it was like, if I can remember, it's been a while. That was like 7 months ago. I think he mixed it with some tequila.
I'm in. I do it.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll take it. I'll do a Beyond Fiction right now.
And it was like some blue coloring. But I was so worried when we were doing drinking because I was like, are we supposed to be drinking a poet? There's a cop over there like at the end of the door. And they're like, I don't know. My other podcasters, which is Whiplash, I asked them, I was like, nah, it's fine. It's like, I mean, if you're sure, because these guys are just wandering around us, wondering if maybe that's alcohol. I don't know.
Yeah, getting arrested during a live podcast could be a ratings grabber. I don't know.
Yeah, you go viral.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is I will say, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Andreas. He's more of he is a furry too, but he's a drag queen furry. We call him.
I didn't know that was a thing. A drag queen furry.
Yes.
Can they come to Nashville?
Wait a minute. Are their furry suit is drag?
No, they still perform regular drag. They just they identify as furries.
I got you. All right.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even mind sending you some videos later after the show.
Yeah.
Me just watching my friend. They call him sour cream. So
yeah.
I'm afraid to ask why.
Yeah, they're quite a fun person to hang out with. They're the life of the party. I love them. He's always been a good friend. He's very close friends with one of my podcasters that works with me. So it's he's fun to be around. And if you give him any type of alcohol, oh boy, you're in one hell of a treat.
Sounds familiar. Maybe that's me.
That could be your spirit animal.
Sour cream too.
What advice, Fiction, would you give people who are curious about the community or want to get involved in the community?
I would say my advice, take your time of getting to understand certain things about us, and don't believe everything you see or hear from TV, from rumors, because as much as there is some truth to some of those rumors, but I always say that's with every community,
sure,
and it's no different from any other ones. It's just we just like dressing up as anthropomorphic animals for fun and acting and stuff like that, and we just like being creative. At the end of the day, in our community, all we want to do is just make people happy and enjoy our time and make them have a good time and be the life of the party. That's the end of the day for us. And if you are curious about joining and you want to know a little bit more, I always like to make a joke. Well, you kind of fell in their trap, because then if you keep going at it, you'll be sucked into it, and then bam, you become one of us. Yeah.
Do people like, if Wes and I wanted to come to a furry convention, is that frowned upon for a non? Because I wouldn't want it to come across as like we think it's a spectacle. We're coming to see something. But do people who are not furries come and be respectful at these conventions? Is that a thing?
Oh, absolutely. I remember my former roommate who has some sisters that wanted to go because the drag queen show that we had there, and they love drag queens and they wanted to come. I was like, yeah, they're more than welcome to come, and you don't need to be afraid to be joining the conventions, and it's just great, just to figure how things work. Definitely ask questions of things you're not sure about, and because definitely when people ask you guys questions about being gay men, and you appreciate when people come up to you and ask you questions.
Right.
Out of respect. Yeah. And especially, if you have straight men asking how it works.
Those are my favorite.
How does that? How does
What do
that?
y'all do?
The favorite question I've ever received was in New York City. And she looked over at me and she's like, "So are you the hot dog or the bun?"
That's one way to put it. That's a very creative way to put
Yeah,
it.
interesting.
Which one's the man? Which one's the woman?
Right.
That's another.
That's my
another
favorite.
classic.
I like to joke with my boyfriend. Like obviously, he's the man. He's got his pink Starbucks coffee with his pumpkin latte, and he talks very feminine. And it's like, yeah, and I'm just like, I guess I'm the feminine one. We like to make jokes about that all the time. So.
I love it.
Well, Fiction, we have really enjoyed talking to you, and thank you for being vulnerable with this. I know people have interesting views on this community. We just wanted to make sure we could present this in a way that normalizes everything about it. And I've learned a lot. I'm sure people will have some questions. So hopefully, if we get some questions that we can't answer, we can reach out to you and get a better represented response.
Of course.
And let us know about your podcast again. Where can people find your podcast?
You can find it mostly on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube, but most of our you can also find us on Spotify and all of. So yeah, we have it on there. Same thing, Top Dogs Podcast. I can send you guys links. I think I've sent you guys.
Yeah,
links.
you did.
Yep.
You can definitely use that because our main content comes from YouTube.
Okay.
And there's a new stat: 100% of the people are going to love this episode.
Agreed.
I just made that up.
Yeah, well, you said it with confidence, though.
I did.
I hope so. I hope I'm representing my community just based on opinions. I'm not just saying. I'm not speaking for everyone.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we do appreciate your time, and thank you again for being vulnerable with us and opening up. And Wes, any final thoughts?
No, you said it clear. You said it perfectly, and we really appreciate it, Fiction. It's been really great to talk to you.
Hey, no problem.
Love it.
And we hope you have a good rest of your week. And babe, you have a good week.
Love you, buddy.
I love you too.
See y'all next time.
Thanks for listening to another great episode of Two Bottles Deep.
Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast.
And while you're at it, write us a fabulous review.
Please reach out to us on our email, twobottlesdeep@gmail.com.
There is plenty of love in this world. Be a part of it.